Let somebody else be in between that, because your chances of collecting that money are a lot higher than when your neighbor next door know that you the owner, and then they got all kind of conversation that you don't need. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to immerse yourself into their world. That's gonna be a problem.
How would you go about house hacking in that situation? So just say you were moving and you wanted to house hack and it was your first time doing something like that, but you have the burst strategy in mind, when you want to create income. And like what would your thoughts be like as far as tenants, your burst strategy after, like your exit strategy? Um, and then are you thinking Airbnb, thinking long-term rental? Like what would be your mindset in that?
So number one, if I were to, so I'm funny about this whole house hack thing, right? I think it's a great strategy. I'm just in a different season in life, so I can't even picture like what that would look like. Well, I can. The first picture I get is they never need to know I'm the owner, right? So if I were to house hack, I would not let my tenants know that I own the place. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't personally connect with them, right? Because I want to know who my tenant is. I want to know what's going on in their world and their life, but they would never know I owned the place because I don't want to have them conversations. Rent due, money need to get paid, right? So I would have a liaison in between me and the tenant that's servicing the property. And some may look at it like, yeah, but I wouldn't want to pay, 8%. But if you collecting $1,000, $80, right? Let somebody else be in between that, because your chances of collecting that money are a lot higher than when your neighbor next door know that you the owner, and then they got all kind of conversation that you don't need. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to immerse yourself into their world. That's gonna be a problem. So I would still run it like a business, but still have a personal relationship with my neighbor. Does that make sense?
It does. All right. So, like, what would be your strategy though? So, say you get it and you secure it, and you're living, you and your family doing one side or whatever, the two flat. Um, like, what would you do after that? Like, far as moving after a year, you try to do another one. Like, how would you generate that same situation, like duplicate it?
That's a great question, man. So nothing is all or nothing, right? That's one of my phrases. Nothing is all or nothing, because it isn't, right? It's very unique. And so what I would say is, depending on what your financial situation is, that could be a great birthing ground to something beautiful. So let's just say if you manage to do a house hack, and the other side that you rent out is covering the debt service, so now you're living for free. You should be smiling right now, right? So if you living for free, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, you picking up what I'm putting down. So if you living for free, and you can allow yourself a 24-month runway of, living modest, you living for free. I don't know how else you live for free unless with your mom and them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you living for free. You can stack these checks of what you would have been paying in mortgage or rent, and now you're giving yourself some margin in your everyday finances. You're giving yourself some margin to go and pursue investment, saving with the purpose of investing. It just really open you up to a realm of possibility. So I wouldn't be so quick, personally. So as long as it was a decent spot and I felt comfortable and all the rest of it, I wouldn't be so quick to abort that situation. I would kind of ride that out and allow myself some latitude that I wouldn't normally have, with eliminating my number one highest expense, which is my living expense.
So my thing is like you say something about like you don't want the person to know that you're the owner. How do you
hmm
go about that after you purchase the property? Like to make sure like I don't know, maybe hide your name, put it under a trust, or I don't know. How do you get to a point where they know you're not the owner, so you could make sure you don't have no issue collecting the rent?
Yeah, that's a great question, man. So number one, yes, you could go as far as putting it into a land trust. But the other part is, people, we take for granted that everybody is intuitive as we are, right? Most people ain't gonna go and look up the owner of their property. They're gonna identify with the person who collecting the rent as either the owner or somebody of authority that they need to make sure they get the rent to. You just wanna isolate yourself from becoming immersed in their problems. Because when they identify you as the owner, now just imagine, right? So now all of a sudden, you and your tenant, y'all been hitting it off, you know, first 3 months, everything been good. They stop paying, y'all live next door to each other. That is the definition of friction. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's static. Every day you go home, you got to deal with this problem, look at this problem. You can't get away from this problem because you live next door to this problem. That's way, like, I'm itching. You know what I'm saying? Just from talking about it. Like, that's crazy for me because I don't know how to be that close to a situation and not deal with it. You know what I mean? It's just my nature. So, yeah, arm's length. You know what I mean? You need to put a liaison in between y'all, and you know, let that be that. You know what I mean? If they go again, if you wanted to insulate yourself further, you could put it in a trust. I don't think most tenants gonna go as far as looking up who the owner is. To be honest with you.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Because they're going to have a property management agreement with that property management company. That's their new owner.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying? Contractually, they're going to be bound with that property management company. They're going to identify them as their owner.
So I have a small LLC business of my own. And I'm trying to build, I've been starting to build some credit on it. Have you ever seen anybody use, you know, like, for instance, take out some money from my LLC on a loan from them and use it to try to do a flip or rent?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're saying you're working on business credit for your LLC currently, right?
Yeah, but the LLC I have, I run it as a handyman business.
Yeah. No, I get it. I'm tracking with you.
Instead of doing like the HELOC, instead of using anything, you know, putting anything in my home in any kind of jeopardy, I use my business because it's already an LLC. So if it fails, I already have that limit liability there.
For sure.
You know.
No, absolutely. And I know why you asking that question. Obviously, because one entity ain't got nothing to do with the real estate, right? But at the very same time, we got to start where we stand. If you got access to capital that does mitigate, you know, having to put your home up on the HELOC, then why not? You know what I mean? The only thing that I would say is just making sure that, you know, it's not putting the business in any kind of stranglehold if in fact you would need to access that capital if you had something come up with your business. That's the only thing that I would be conscious of, is why you taking that to go grow this, making sure that you wouldn't need that capital for anything in your immediate business.